All right, get ready to dive deep, because today we're all about Dame Maggie Smith.
Oh, an excellent
We've
choice.
got her Wikipedia page fired up, and let me tell you, this is going to be good. 7 decades on stage and screen, 2 Oscars, I mean, the list goes on. This is Dame Maggie Smith we're talking about.
A true legend. And her career really gives us a glimpse into how film and theater have changed over the years, you know?
Totally. So let's rewind way back to the beginning. Maggie Smith, born in 34, starts acting as a teenager.
Wow, really?
Yeah, at the Oxford Playhouse, can you imagine?
The Oxford Playhouse, that's quite a training ground to be doing that at such a young age.
Talk about an inspiring start.
It really makes you think about what kind of environment shapes an actor. To be surrounded by that much history, that kind of legacy, even as a teenager.
It's like being thrown into the deep end of the best acting school possible. And from there, she goes on to conquer Broadway in 56 with, get this, New Faces of 56. I feel like those Broadway reviews, especially back then, were such a spectacle.
Oh, absolutely. It was like the who's who of upcoming talent, all vying for the spotlight. Landing a part in one of those shows, that was a sign you were going places. And for Maggie Smith to be featured so early in her career, talk about a testament to her talent, even back then.
It's like the universe was saying, get ready world, here comes Maggie Smith.
And speaking of big breaks, she then joins the National Theatre Company.
Now we're talking.
And not just any company, this is with Laurence Olivier at the helm. For those of us who aren't theater historians, what did it mean to be a part of that world back then? Well, imagine this. The National Theatre Company, especially under Olivier's leadership, was the place to be for any serious actor. It was the epicenter of British theater, a breeding ground for excellence.
And Olivier himself, he spots Maggie Smith's talent immediately, right?
Oh, absolutely. He catches her performance in The Double Dealer and basically says, "We need her." And Olivier, he was legendary, known for his powerful stage presence, incredibly demanding, so the standards were sky high.
And Maggie Smith, she jumps right in, no hesitation.
She more than held her own, let me tell you. It wasn't so much a rivalry as it was two powerhouses, both dedicated to their craft, both with these incredibly strong personalities. I can only imagine the energy in those rehearsal rooms.
It must have been electric. So we have to address the elephant in the room, the Othello incident. I feel like this is where things get a bit delicate.
Yeah, it's one of those moments in theater history that really makes you think about the times.
Right, we're talking about a different era, different expectations, definitely a different understanding of what's acceptable, especially on stage.
Exactly. I mean, if something like this happened today, it would be a scandal. But back then, the lines were a bit blurrier. The intensity of method acting, the power dynamics at play, it all contributed to this environment where, unfortunately, something like this could happen.
So for those who don't know, we're talking about an incident during a performance of Othello.
Right, with Olivier in the title role and Maggie Smith playing Desdemona.
And during this particular performance, Olivier, well, he slaps her.
He does, and hard enough that she falls to the stage.
I can't even imagine what the audience must have been thinking. Did anyone know what to do?
It's hard to say for sure. Details from back then are always a bit murky. Some people said Olivier was really lost in the character, that it wasn't intentional. Others weren't so sure. They thought maybe it was a power play, a way to assert his dominance.
Regardless, it definitely sparked a lot of debate, I imagine.
Oh, absolutely. It made people question the boundaries of acting, how far is too far, even in the name of art.
It's a complicated situation, and it's a good reminder that even in a world as glamorous as theater, these darker sides exist. But with that said, let's move on to a much brighter chapter. All right, time to break out the confetti and crank up the applause.
We're celebrating 2 Academy Awards, after all.
2. It's almost unfair to the rest of us, isn't it? First, the prime of Miss Jean Brodie, 1969, Best Actress, the iconic role, the performance that really put her on the map for a lot of people.
It's interesting, because even though it's this incredibly moving film, she's able to portray this distance in Jean Brodie, this kind of emotional remove.
Ah, I see what you mean.
Like one review I read described it as technically stunning, emotionally distant, and it just fits perfectly.
It really encapsulates the essence of the character, doesn't it? That ability to be brilliant and flawed all at once. And then hold on to your hats, folks, because she doesn't stop there. Fast forward to 1978, and she snags the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress in California Suite.
Okay, and this is where I geek out a little. Not only does she win a second Oscar, but get this. She's the only person ever to win an Oscar for playing a character who was also nominated for an Oscar.
Whoa, wait a minute. I did not know that. I need to go back and watch that again. That's amazing.
It's true. Her character in California Suite is actually up for an award. It's like this meta Oscar win. It's fantastic.
See, this is why I love these deep dives. You uncover these little gems of information. But it's also a good reminder that even with a career like hers, not every project is going to be a masterpiece, right?
Oh, for sure. Even the greats have their oops
And
moments.
sometimes those oops moments have pretty hilarious nicknames.
Tell me you're talking about the goulash without telling me you're talking about the goulash.
Okay, you have to tell the story behind that one because I have a feeling our listeners are wondering what in the world the goulash could be.
So, the goulash, as Maggie Smith so lovingly dubbed it, was her experience filming Lily in Love, which, let's just say, didn't quite live up to her standards.
It's like the film equivalent of a culinary experiment gone wrong.
Exactly. But hey, it just goes to show that even legends have those moments where things don't pan out.
It's all part of the journey, right? But let's talk about a collaboration that definitely did pan out. Maggie Smith and playwright Alan Bennett.
Now we're talking about a match made in theatrical heaven.
Their work together is just pure magic.
Oh, I completely agree. And it's interesting to think about what each of them brought to the table, you know? Bennett with his incredible writing, those sharp, insightful characters.
And Maggie Smith with this uncanny ability to bring them to life, to find the humor and the heartbreak in their stories.
Exactly. Think about Talking Heads. Those monologues are like these little windows into the human soul, and she delivers them with such nuance and depth.
And then, of course, there's the lady in the van, both the play and the film. That character, that role, it was practically written for her, wasn't it?
Oh, without a doubt. That dry wit, that sharp tongue, it's pure Maggie Smith through and through.
And it's not just the humor, it's the way she brings humanity to these characters, even the prickly ones. You can't help but root for them. Speaking of iconic roles, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Professor McGonagall. Yeah, I mean, come on, Harry Potter, it's a cultural phenomenon.
It's true. And you know what's amazing? J.K. Rowling actually pictured Maggie Smith as McGonagall while she was writing the books.
No way. So it was like destiny.
Exactly. She knew she wanted Maggie Smith for that role, and thank goodness she got her wish.
The perfect casting choice. She embodies that character so flawlessly. That stern demeanor, but with a twinkle in her eye, like she's got a secret.
She can command a room with just a look.
And I love that even with all the special effects and the craziness of filming those movies, she still found moments of humor.
Oh, absolutely. Remember that story about her and Alan Rickman running out of reaction shots?
No, what was that?
She joked that after the 100th take of pretending to be surprised or scared by some magical effect, they just couldn't muster up any more convincing reactions.
That's hilarious. I could just picture them on set, trying to keep a straight face. From stage to screen, those iconic roles, they just keep coming.
And speaking of iconic, we have to talk Downton Abbey.
Oh, Downton Abbey, where do we even begin?
I mean, it's more than just a show. It's a whole phenomenon.
It really is. And her character, the Dowager Countess, I mean, she's the queen of the one-liner, right?
Absolutely. But it's not just the lines themselves. It's her delivery, that dry wit, the timing.
It's like she throws shade with a smile.
Exactly. And, you know, she can be quite subversive with it, challenging those societal norms, but always with a sense of grace, of course.
She's not afraid to speak her mind, that's for sure.
No, not at all. And that's what makes her so much fun to watch.
So we've covered a lot of ground here, but we've really only scratched the surface of her career.
She's got a trophy cabinet that would put most of Hollywood to shame.
That's for sure. But there's one award in particular I wanted to touch on. The BFI Fellowship.
Oh, yes, that's a special one.
Awarded by the British Film Institute. It's basically a Lifetime Achievement Award, recognizing her impact on film culture.
And she received it back in '93, which tells you just how long she's been a force in the industry.
A true icon. And through it all, she faced some serious health challenges, too. Graves' disease, breast cancer, I mean, these are not easy things to go through.
No, they're not. But she faced them head on with this incredible resilience.
She never let those experiences define her.
And what I find so inspiring is that she never shied away from aging. She embraced it.
I remember reading this quote from her. She said something like, "I may not be a dish anymore, but I'm still getting offered fantastic roles."
Yes, that's Maggie Smith. In a nutshell, she doesn't let age limit her, and she still brings that same fire to every performance.
It's a powerful message, don't you think?
Absolutely. It's a reminder that our passions, our talents, they don't have an expiration date.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the extraordinary career of Dame Maggie Smith, what's the one thing you hope our listeners take away from this?
For me, it's about the power of choosing work that excites you, that challenges you, that allows you to grow.
To never stop learning, to never stop pushing yourself.
Exactly. And to approach it all with a sense of humor and grace, just like Dame Maggie herself.
Beautifully said. And for you, our listeners, thank you for joining us on this incredible journey. We've laughed, we've learned, we've been thoroughly entertained by the one and only Dame Maggie Smith. Until next time, happy diving.